a lot of pre-roll footage.
Well, yeah, the problem
audio.
is it's all about pop culture. We didn't talk about actual shit.
I think I asked you in the beginning how your parents were doing.
Yeah, well, they're fine.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Okay, anyway. Yeah. Thanks, Mom and Dad. You're the best. Thanks for letting me live at home free of rent because I'm poor because of COVID. But fuck them. Here we go.
Welcome. You are entering into a strange dimension. A dimension where narratives from across space and time come together. Narratives that could have, might have, or should have been all exist here in one space. This is CineCasters Ultimate Timeline.
Welcome back to CineCasters Ultimate Timeline. My name is Andrew DeYoung / Janglez the Strange, and Nate is probably away this week. I don't know. I'm pre-recording these, so we have them on backup. So I'm once again joined by the most talented, drummerific guy I know / movie buff, Justin Ferrante.
How's it going?
Who is also the drummer of my band, Robot Philosopher.
Indeed. Yeah, super stoked to be back on CineCasters.
Are you actually stoked? Because unlike last time, we're not watching a show that you enjoyed at all. Whereas when we did The Punisher, you were like, well, I mean, your thoughts on The Punisher?
Yeah. I loved The Punisher. It was such a good show,
and that was the best version of him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, this was. I will say it actually got better as it went on.
Thank you.
It did get better. The first 4 episodes were actually a bit hard for me to get through.
I would agree with that. Agree with that. So if you can't tell by what's on screen, we're talking about High School Musical, the series, recently released on Disney Plus, or HSMTMTS, if you're cool and can say it that fast.
Yeah, I'm just going to be sticking with High School Musical, the series, because
you can say HSMTMTS?
No, I want to
repeat after me. HSMTMTS.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's just get right in. Well, first, just your thoughts. Your just general thoughts.
Okay. So, is this including likes and dislikes, or just general?
So, I mean, maybe we'll just give me some. I mean, I was basically like, okay, I want to do another TV show.
Yeah.
And I had just finished the episode of This Is a Thing on High School Musical and art.
Yeah.
And art criticism. And I was like, yo, I have now watched all of HSMTMTS, and I would be thrilled to talk about it on an episode of CineCasters, because I only write about things that I like on This Is a Thing, and I liked it, but there's no deconstructionist methodology that I already didn't talk about in the High School Musical of This Is a Thing. So I wanted to be like, yo, let's talk about this movie, this TV show, because it is super flawed.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I loved it for all the reasons that I love campy, cheesy, terrible shit.
Right.
And so I was like, hey, you know who I can force to watch this show? Because as you've said, you don't watch terrible films or TV.
No, I don't.
The worst film you've ever seen, I think, is 50 Shades.
Just the third one.
Yeah.
And that was just because it was a few months ago, and I was with my wife, and like, you know what? Well, you should watch something terrible. Janglez suggests we do this all the time, and like he does this is like let's watch something
and
intentionally bad.
You did it the right way. You made a drinking game out of it.
And indeed we did. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, have you seen any of the Twilight movies either?
I've watched one with you actually. At my parents' house, we watched one.
Was it the good one?
Definitely. There's a good one.
Yeah, there is actually.
Which one's that?
It's the last one. I don't remember if there's.
It
4 or 5
definitely wasn't
of them.
that one.
Okay, because there's one where there's like a whole battle between the vampires, and it winds up being more like X-Men.
Okay, no, this is one where like Taylor Lautner like loses a shirt, and so
he does that in all of them.
Oh, okay, because I was gonna say Bella has to go help him find a shirt, but I wasn't sure which. Okay, so I'm trying to narrow it down. The Edward like doesn't let her go there, and it's really creepy.
Go where?
Like she's like, oh, I gotta go help Shark Boy find his missing shirt, and he's like, no, you can't go, and like intentionally messes up her car, and you're like, whoa, big old red flag. Like,
No, I think you're misremembering this. None of that
did that not happen?
No. I mean, bits and pieces of that are accurate, but the story that you're putting together is completely fabricated.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming like he's not actually missing his shirt. Like, I'm assuming that's
No,
not the
obviously.
actual
No, but I
conflict.
mean, like,
but like,
no,
that's not
you're-
something
you're
that happened where
misremembering-
he's like,
no.
oh, I'm gonna get into my old beat up pickup truck and go see Shark Boy, and
Not
he's like,
quite.
no, you can't go.
You're misremembering this.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna stop you there before you embarrass yourself further on fucking Twilight. No, I was just curious, like, how many bad, quote unquote, shows that you have seen.
Shows or movies?
Yes.
Or just
All of the
media
above.
content? Well, I mean, I have seen The Last Airbender, but we've gone over that
We've
before.
been down that one.
and
We'll do that one, by the way.
No.
Maybe not you and I.
No, you're not doing that with me. No way. I've seen I saw Transformers 5 in theaters because I'm a very good son-in-law.
I hate Transformers. Any of the Michael Bay Transformers movies are. I mean, we did the first one on CineMasters.
Yeah, it's funny because I was actually, as I was getting my tattoo on Tuesday, I was talking to the guy because we were actually watching Jaws. He has a TV set up, so he usually has something on while he's tattooing. So we started with Jaws, and then we started with there's a Netflix show called Down to Earth, where Zac Efron travels to Iceland and a few other places to find like renewable energy. It was actually a pretty informative, good show. But we were talking about like Transformers. He's into Batman and a lot of '90s media and stuff like that. So the topic came up, and we were like, yeah, the Michael Bay's Transformers movies don't feel like Transformer movies. They feel like Michael Bay movies that feature Transformers.
Well, we've also on CineMasters done The Island.
Yes,
which is
I remember that episode,
I really like that movie, sort of.
Yeah.
All the bits that are Michael Bay are terrible, but all the contemplation is really good.
You know what the best Michael Bay movie is?
Is it The Island?
No, it's not The Island.
Is it The Rock?
It is The Rock.
I was going to say, The Rock.
It's hands down, I think, almost unquestionably The Rock.
It's a good movie.
You got Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage. Like, what else do you need?
But I want to know about HSMTMTS.
Yes, High School Musical, the musical, the series.
Pretty good. It's like a tongue twister.
HSMTSTS. Did I say it right? Did I miss a consonant?
HSMTMTS?
HSMTMTS. No, I'm just gonna stick with High School Musical, the musical, the series.
Goods and bads.
Okay, so yeah, let's do. So, I did not like the first 4 episodes. The first episode I think really had me kind of rolling my eyes because, first of all, it's like, okay, we have the drama teacher who's like, oh, I'm gonna come and like save the school, and just like, all right, and then of course the kids are all like, hashtag like, oh, like children don't talk like that, and then
it's true. Children really don't talk.
They
like
don't.
That.
And so that was what got me worried. And then the one character's like, die. I'm deceased. Literally does like children don't like young people don't actually talk like that. Like that's how old people think the younger generation. They don't really talk like that.
Oh, hello, young people.
Yeah.
I am also with it.
That's right, freaking Steve Buscemi. Like that. Like, hello, you fellow youngsters. It's like they don't like they might talk that way as a joke, but they don't legitimately like hashtag everything they say. Like they don't.
For reference,
do that.
Justin is a teacher. Like that's his day job.
Yeah.
So like he does work with children. He's not just blowing smoke.
Yeah, they don't like maybe they do in high school because I mean I do teach elementary, but like
I don't think so.
I don't think
I
they
often
legitimately
work with
talk
high
like
school
that.
students when I'm teaching. When I teach outdoor ed, and they don't talk like that.
Yeah, so the first 4 episodes were like they were rough and bumpy. I would say probably episode 5.
Do you remember which episode that is and what happened?
If you give me a second, it's because these are all out of order now. So it might be either Wonder Studies or it's after the read through. I think it's basically when we see the first actual big musical number. It's one.
I think of when that is.
It's the 5th episode. I pasted the because I was.
But they're all out of order. Yeah.
They're not. They're out of order because of my pitch, and it kind of does something different, so they're switched out of order.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, like that was a really great musical number, and then some of the characters start to get a lot more likable. And again, like some of the musical numbers were really impressive, and then the finale was like, again, I think it's a good show. It's pretty decent. It's nothing I would probably watch of my own volition. Like if we weren't doing this, I probably would have never checked it out.
Yeah.
But it definitely the second half definitely picks it up. But those first 4 episodes are like were a bit painful to
yeah,
sit through.
I think the first episode is actually kind of rough, and it's a little disappointing because if you're a fan of High School Musical, like I don't know, going into High School Musical right off the bat is like sort of, oh, this is going to be super hokey and terrible, but you're into it.
Yeah.
Almost immediately, I was like, oh, but this one, I don't know. I think the biggest issue actually is having the show start with Miss Jen, the drama teacher.
Yeah.
Because she is ridiculous, and it's fine and it works, but she can't be the main character. And so I think when you have Ricky and Nini as your main characters, and they do a great job, I think, introducing Ricky and Nini with almost immediately going like, oh, we're on a break, it was my decision, and we get a little bit of their relationship, and then immediately we have this flashback where she sings a song to him.
Yeah.
And he's like,
that was the other that was the other thing in the first episode, is because she's playing the song on ukulele. I was like, oh no, don't tell me. Like,
it's just because everybody does ukulele now.
But that was the
popular.
thing. I was like, oh my god, like, please don't tell me we're throwing every like modern day young person cliche like into the first episode.
Well, we are a little bit.
That's why I was like, oh no, please.
Yeah. Which is super funny because when I think about it, I'm not really certain who this show is for.
Right?
Because I grew up with High School Musical, but I was 14, 13 when I watched the first one.
Yeah, we would have been around that age.
And I think that I'm too old for what they think the demographic is.
Yeah.
Because now I think about it, all the actors who are in the show are like, they talk behind the scenes, they talk about like what they were like 6 or 7 when High School Musical came out, and I'm like, wait, how fucking old are you supposed to be when you watch the show? Like, I mean, I'm 28 now.
Yeah, you're doing the math, and you're like,
I guess they are in high school, so like, who is this for?
Yeah, exactly. But actually, I wanted to. So, Miss Jennings,
Miss Jen.
Miss Jen.
Her name is Jennifer Jen.
Yeah. I don't like her. She is my lead. So, and this actually kind of ties into my own job. Like, I don't like her character. I don't. Like, she has this big blowout with the robotics teacher.
Yeah.
She's like, I care about these. Blah, 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 blah. But up until that point, the only thing we've seen her do is like march orders at people and be like, oh, it's all about me and this is my vision. And like,
no, I would disagree with that.
I didn't get that from her.
No, I think she's a ridiculous character and she's supposed to be.
Yeah, sure.
But I think it does work because you can see she cares about the students. She wants to put on this musical.
I thought she wants to put on this musical because she'll be like, oh, this is going to be so great for me. But I didn't see many interactions where she actually got until like the second half of the series. I can't pick out a scene where I was like, oh, that was a really good moment you had with a student.
I think she's supposed to be ridiculous, but we do see her do some stuff with Carlos, and I do think she does believe in the kids. But I think that comes across like passively.
Yeah. And so like, and the other problem with that too is how like, and I want, I do teach elementary, so maybe it is a little different in high school, but like, I don't know if in high school that you can delegate children to like text other people or yourself certain things. I mean, maybe it's different putting on a play production.
So this is one of my bads. I'll just get right into it because it's on the same note.
Yeah.
Is when they're at the party and they're playing High School Musical, the Choosical, I was like, this is really dope, actually. I think somebody would make a board game. I make board games for fun all the fucking time.
Right.
And I get bored. What I have a problem with that scene is that nobody's drinking.
Yeah.
Because and you're like, oh, but Andrew, it doesn't need to be not like the kids aren't like they are in Riverdale where they're just getting wasted and having sex all the time in high school. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I could easily see high school kids drinking alcohol, even though it's illegal because they all do it anyway. Drinking alcohol and still playing High School Musical, the board game, High School Musical, the Choosical, and having a good time because that's what kids do. Like, so once I realized that, what I think that the show is not realistic. It cannot be.
That's true. The other thing that really bothered me was that she took the 2 girls for a girls' night. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. The show is not realistic. It cannot be by virtue of being a musical.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, back up for a second, because as soon as you realize that the show is a musical, and all musicals have this thing where you you have to suspend your disbelief more than a regular movie because characters are just going to sing how they feel for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Right? And at first I thought they might do something really interesting with the show where they would go, we're only going to have musical numbers if they're realistic.
Yeah.
So we're only going to have characters sing to each other the way Nini does at the beginning when she's like, I'm going to sing to Ricky on Instagram because I wrote him a song.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's something that would happen. But then later on in the episode, Nini has her audition and she sings.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. So the music almost becomes diegetic. It's
Yeah.
only part of the happenings, the narration, the story on screen, right? But then once they start singing like just for themselves,
Yeah.
or like specifically when they're at karaoke night in that episode,
Which is still so messed up.
fuck off.
No,
I know it's messed up, but the show, that's what my point is. The show is not realistic. It cannot be by virtue of being a musical. Once they break the whole the music is not diegetic, right?
Yeah.
Now we're into camp territory. All musical movies do this. We're into camp territory. You have to watch the episode of This Is a Thing on High School Musical. I know you haven't
will
seen
get
it.
there. It's just like that. It was such a. It stuck out because like this is not okay.
Of course it's not okay, but
it's not as bad as this. This is a really extreme example. But are you familiar with the show Pretty Little Liars?
I am familiar with it.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
Okay, so like it's established like episode 1 that one of the protagonists, like one of the 4,
Sleeping with her teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do the same thing in Riverdale.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, so this guy goes to jail, right? Because that's so
Yeah,
like
it's super not okay. Yeah, it's
like-
established in Riverdale. One of the main characters is sleeping with the music teacher, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a rant. First of all, okay, as a teacher, don't do that.
Yeah,
Second of
super
all, these kids are in high school, right? You ever spent any time with a 15-year-old? They're not attractive, and not because they're not good looking. They might be. I'm not here to judge. Don't do that, but I'm not here to judge. You could be good looking and be in high school, but they're not attractive in their brains. Like they don't have fully formed opinions. They don't understand the world, right? Like you're not mature. Your brain is still developing. Like you're not attractive in your brain.
Yeah, that I remember hearing about that. That really bothered me. It was like, okay, so the teacher goes to prison, right? It's like, no, they end up like they continue their relationship. Like, what?
So that's what I'm saying.
How is that possible?
That's what I'm saying is when you have shows.
How is this popular?
When you have shows like that, I don't like them. When you have shows like Riverdale or
Pretty Little Liars.
Pretty Little Liars, thank you.
Yeah.
These shows are not realistic, but they take themselves seriously.
Yeah.
This show is not realistic at all, and it knows it. I actually think it knows it more than the movies do.
Okay.
I think it draws attention to its ridiculousness. And I'll point out exactly when I thought this was happening. In the last episode, everyone's getting together, and they're all like, oh man, this was so amazing. Like, thank you so much, Miss Jen. And she goes, wait until you see what I have planned for next semester. And she looks right at the camera.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right at the camera. And to me, immediately, I was like, oh, shit. It's not really a fourth wall break, because she doesn't break it really.
Yeah.
But she basically is saying, like, hey, you, audience, this is a thing. And so I realized, like, the whole show is camp. It's camp.
It's true, though, but but I think that might have to do more with the inconsistent framing device of it being like a documentary.
Yeah, that is a little inconsistent.
Because people are talking and breaking the fourth wall, but they're like, but then sometimes they're not.
They do this talking head thing, and it works because we want to get their inner thoughts.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't work because
the whole show's not like that.
The whole show isn't represented that way. I mean, I think that really could have worked if they had done it, if they'd either gone full tilt into it. Because if you look at the way The Office or Parks and Rec does it,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like this is supposed to be filmed like a documentary.
Yeah.
And so I almost wish if they had just at the very beginning been like, oh, Miss Jen is going to do the first performance ever of High School Musical in the school that was High School Musical, and there's going to be people filming it, and then we get to know the people who are auditioning.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, the whole framing device is used this way. And I wish they also had stuck with the whole idea of the show being, the music only being diegetic.
Yeah.
So we can have new songs, but only have characters sing those songs in a way that would be realistically make sense.
Yeah.
At auditions, in the show,
Yeah.
on Instagram, as confessions of love to each other. You know what I mean? Instead of just like breaking out in the middle of a karaoke parking lot
Yeah.
at a fucking bowling alley. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Realism aside, that doesn't make sense to me unless it's a musical.
Yeah.
And when it becomes a musical, as opposed to just a show that has music in it, when it becomes a musical, you have to suspend your disbelief more. And I think that's why a lot of people, Ricky even says, I don't understand musical. Why do people just burst into song, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people actually struggle with the idea of non-diegetic music in musicals because, or I guess this weird sort of in-between zone between diegetic and non-musicals, right? It's fucking weird because it is diegetic, but it's also like nobody talks about the fact that they're all doing this.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to suspend your disbelief. A lot of people don't like that because they're like, that doesn't happen in real life. I can't suspend my disbelief anymore. And you wind up in camp territory anyway. You have to embrace the cheese or you have to get the fuck out. I said it to you. I said, if you're going to watch this whole thing, which you are because I'm going to make you have to, enjoy it. You have to find a way to enjoy it. Otherwise, you're going to hate every episode. And there's 10 of them.
Yeah.
But I think the show knows that it's campy. And instead of being like, we're going to take ourselves seriously, we're going to have realistic portrayal of high school students, we're going to take the piss.
Yeah.
We're just going to take the piss and have a good time doing whatever the hell this mess is.
Yeah.
And I got to say, when you look at it through that lens, it's more fun.
For sure.
It's way more fun.
Yeah. I also think that Gina definitely deserved to be Gabriella.
Yeah, Gina was...
Like, that actress can dance and sing amazingly. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if I were the musical director, if I was the person in charge of that, I'd be like, yeah, she gets it, man. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, Nini, but like... We
didn't really hear Gina sing that much in the whole show, though.
I think she sings a bit at the audition.
I can't remember. It's not a lot, though.
It's not a lot, but like just the fact, like just her dance choreography is like, oh, like why?
Yeah, but dance is only, you got to be a triple threat, homie.
I think she was. Well, she tells her that, right? Like, does someone have a conversation about triple threat? Or
yeah, but that's Miss Jen's version.
That is, yeah.
Where she's like, you got to be able to dance, act, and organize your time. It's like, that's not what triple threat
means. That's not what it actually is. But
I will say that some of the jokes that Miss Jen makes endeared her to me.
Yeah.
Like at one point in time, she's singing with Lucas Grabeel.
Yes,
which was a great moment because it's so stupid. That's what I mean by camp, where they have this obligatory dream sequence, and then she wakes up, she's about to like hit the big note, and then Carlos slaps her awake. Like you're just like, but in that episode, he's like, this is the role of a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
He's like Alphaba or Eponine. Yeah. And Miss Jen's like, I'm actually more of a Glinda, which she totally is, but that's funny if you get musicals.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Now, I will also say, for the viewer, Justin and I met actually at a theater camp.
That's true,
A theater. So we do have some, albeit amateur, idea of what's going on when you do this. And what I will say is I've actually been in some high school productions that were fairly high productions, fairly good quality, but I will say I hated everything to do with the actual musical they put on itself in the last couple episodes. First of all, the songs are out of order from the movie. They're like, oh, we're gonna do like the big what is it, the big break or whatever. The songs are like slightly out of order. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and especially for people who are like, oh, like we have V Hudge's phone, which is like, please just call her Vanessa or Hudgens. Like, why
I don't know. Apparently, people do actually call her that.
V Hudge.
Whatever. I'm not gonna pretend to understand what the kids are into these days. I mean, we're literally sitting here on a channel that talks about movies and philosophy.
Yeah, I have a feeling they wanted to make Miss Jen like kind of like a, and I think because I made this analogy to you earlier in the week, but they wanted to make her like a Ned Schneebly, like from School of Rock kind of character.
Yeah.
But Jack Black and the character he made was just so much more likable, and like you could really get behind. Like, I
don't think Miss Jen is unlikable. I just think she's like got this neuroticness about her.
Yeah.
And I think it comes across well. Again, her character is totally unbelievable, but that's fine for the show.
Yeah.
But what I will say, what I think carries this show more than anything else is once you get past how stupid the show is and you sort of get into it, I actually think that Ricky and Nini's actual relationship does carry the show fairly well. Mm-hmm. Once you're invested, you're like, okay, like I am interested in seeing where this goes, because it doesn't say like, oh, they both want to be together, but they can't be together, because it does some stuff with like, and Ricky's dealing with his whole thing at home. I actually really like that portrayal. I think that's fairly realistic. Like, Ricky is not having an easy time with this. I do think that works out quite well.
Sorry, this is another thing I just wanted to point out. The fact that she has her big, like, teacher hearing and the kids are there.
Well, the kids would be allowed to show up.
Is that a thing?
It wouldn't be at the school, but likely.
Yeah, it was like in the school
but
cafeteria.
Like, I think you're focusing too much on realism.
I know, it's just like...
Too much on realism. But what I will say is that usually when you have public servants, so particularly in Canada, when you have like trials like that, they're usually open to the public, but people aren't allowed to talk. So like any children or whatnot, or parents or whatnot, could probably go to the hearing,
but they couldn't bust out and do a big musical number.
Yeah, you couldn't bust out and do a musical number. But the show is not realistic. It cannot be.
I know, but you can't always say that as an excuse to why stupid things happen. Just
yes, I can. That's
I know
the point.
You can,
that's
but you
point.
shouldn't.
That's what the art is. It is camp. It is cheese. It is terrible, but in all the right ways. I really liked the show for all the right reasons. Camp, cheese, terribleness. I don't know. Do you have any other things?
No, I think that basically covers it all. From my general thoughts and feelings about the show.
This one was a hard one to pitch. I actually had a lot of trouble trying to pitch this one, because I really liked the show that we got, and I didn't want to change too much.
Okay, yeah, I very similar to the Punisher. I kind of went in a bit of a different direction.
Why don't you start this time?
I will actually. I was going to suggest that because you had started last time. So, it's funny because you alluded a little bit to my pitch earlier. So, I've reimagined it as a true proper documentary kind of style, in the style of like The Office or Parks and Rec, about how this director is trying to pitch the show to Disney, and how like she's going to put it on like it's a very meta show. So I wanted it to be like, it's a bit of a critique on like millennial nostalgia, the theater industry, and connecting to newer audiences. Especially as it relates to Disney.
Okay, I might change my mind. I think I should go first, because yours sounds way smarter.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I think I might go first.
No, you can go.
Okay, because that sounds way better, and I don't want to be like, oh, fuck.
No, you can go.
So,
that's
okay,
all right.
My pitch is not that. My pitch is, what I tried to do is actually organize the show into episodes, with each episode relating to a song from the original musical. So every episode is actually called the song name. Yeah. And it follows a sort of, I mean, it still follows the basic premise of the show. So if I leave something out, just assume that it happens. Yeah. But it basically follows the premise of the whole musical. So I am actually going to start first. Whoopsies!
That's all right.
So this first episode is called The Start of Something New. So we open with Ricky returning to school, first day of school, with his friend Big Red, and he says that he's written a song for Nini because she wrote a song for him. Yeah. And then we can get the flashback of the two and how they broke up, and she doesn't want to hear his song. Yeah. So she's like, no, don't want to hear it. So Nini is now with EJ, who she met over the summer, and she's really loving life, but she's a bit upset with everything that's going on with Ricky, but she's determined to move on. Right. None of this. I also wanted to play this up a little bit, but Big Red is actually kind of bummed because the three of them have gone through school together. Yeah. And then Courtney sort of moved when they started high school, moved in. Yeah. I can explain that. So Courtney and Nini are really close, but Nini, Ricky, and Big Red sort of, it's always been the three of them. Yeah. And now he's sort of like in my friend group. Like, I'm still best friends with Ricky, but like I'm also friends with Nini. Yeah. And so I wanted to see more of that. Okay. Yeah. Because if they've really grown up together, then we should see some camaraderie between Big Red and Nini. No, you're right. And they have no screen time together.
This is true.
So then Miss Jen is introduced. I want to introduce her after, because she's not the central figure. Yes. And she wants to put on a production of High School Musical in the school where High School Musical was shot. And when Ricky first hears about this, he's like, I'm not interested. But then at lunch, he sees Nini and EJ together and is like, shit, well, I'm going to go to the audition. Yeah. And I'm going to sing my song where she'll have to hear it. Right. He's not interested in auditioning, really. Yeah. He's just like, I'm going to play my song. So Miss Jen actually says auditions will be in 2 parts because, by the way, auditions are usually in 2 parts. The first part is a group audition where you dance and you'll sing together, and the second part you'll do reading and you'll sing something by yourself, but that'll be private. So there's group auditions and then solo auditions.
Yeah.
So the group auditions have everyone sing and dance, and we can meet Gina here, and then the private auditions will start, and everyone will read and then sing a little bit. So they do the group auditions, but Ricky misses it because he's stuck. I guess he can be in detention or whatever, but he's not trying to learn about High School Musical. He doesn't give a shit.
Right.
So he runs in when the group auditions are over, and Miss Jen is like, "No, you've missed the group auditions. Like, you have to be there for everyone." And he's like, "Look, I just want to do my thing." And so she's like, "Fine, I'll pencil you in somewhere, but don't expect much because you missed the group auditions."
Yes.
And so Nini does her private audition now, and she can sing the start of Something New because that's the song she picked. And we can get her whole thing where she's like, I really feel like I want to be on stage, and that's fine. I actually think that works for her.
Yeah.
And then Ricky's actually right after her, and the two of them are like, he's walking in and she's walking out of the theater, and the two of them exchange words like, "Why are you even here, Ricky?" And he's like, "Well, I didn't think it was going to be this way. Like, I thought." And so he's sort of stuck now because he was like, "Well, I kind of thought the auditions were going to be in front of everyone."
Yeah.
And so he's sort of like, "Well, I guess I'm here now." And she's like, "Are you going to waste my time?" And he's like, "Well, actually, I'd like to sing something that isn't from High School Musical." And she's like, "Oh, do you want to sing a song from any of these other musicals? Like, which musical do you want to sing from?" Giving him the opportunity. And he's like, "It's actually not from a musical." And she's like, "Okay, like, you're wasting my time, Mr." I can't remember his last name.
Yeah.
You're wasting my time. And he's like, I want to sing this song that I wrote about someone. But he like trips himself up. He's like, I want to sing the song that I wrote about someone.
Yeah.
And so he sings the song, but we don't see it, the audience.
Yeah.
We don't see him sing the song. And then all of a sudden, the next day or whatever, the cast list is posted, and it's Nini and Ricky in the leads, and not EJ and Gina. Dun dun dun. So episode 2 is Get Your Head in the Game. So the second episode, we see Ricky performing poorly as he's trying to wrap his head around musical theater. He's not a dancer, right? He's never done this before.
Yeah.
So he's like trying to do this, and he's obviously a talented singer, but the dancing is totally new to him. So he tries to leave Nini a message saying that he's like, you know, I still want to sing this song for you. Like, if you'll just listen, then I'll leave you alone. But Gina steals Nini's phone, as we see in the show, and gives it to EJ. And then now... you know, Nini, they're trying to get, Gina and Ricky are both trying to get Nini and Gina and EJ are trying to both get Nini and Ricky to leave, but separately. They're plotting and doing that whole shit. Gina overhears that if Ricky stays, Nini will probably leave, and so she convinces Ricky to stay. She basically says, like, look, dancing is like a sport. It's like skateboarding, which is what you practice at it and you get good, but you have to put the time in.
Yeah.
And so Ricky goes to Carlos and Sebastian and says, like, you guys are great dancers. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And so Carlos and Sebastian sing Get Your Head in the Game to him.
Yeah.
Right? About dancing. You got to get your head in the game.
Gotta get
Episode 3.
head in the game.
What I've been looking for. Nini realizes that EJ stole her phone and the two of them break up. Reeling from this and this mysterious voicemail, Nini is like, I don't know what Ricky sent me or what he wants to talk about. But she realizes that she's sort of always been able to talk to Ricky.
Yeah.
Like she, Big Red, and Ricky always used to hang out. And then Courtney came in and they were always sort of the four of them friends. And so she tries to like talk to Ricky. But Ricky, however, is dealing with the fact that his mom is leaving.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of fucked up about that. He's really struggling. He winds up at Nini's house. But then he realizes, like, when they talk, I don't want them to have a moment quite so much.
Yeah.
Whereas Nini is like excited that he's here. And you know, she's like, she sings What I've Been Looking For, but in a more minor key.
Okay, yeah.
Like where she's like, this is what I have been looking for. He was there you were always there right beside me, but in a minor key, much more melancholy.
Always right beside me.
Thought I was alone. Yeah, you get the idea. Yeah. Except much prettier instead of two baritones trying to sing that song. Batman, is that you?
Yeah.
So then we get her sing the song, and the two of them talk, and Ricky gets his advice from Nini. He's like, that's really good advice. And he decides to leave before she can tell him that she feels this way.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of upset about that. And he goes back to deal with his mom and that biz. Episode 4 is Status Quo. Gina teams up with EJ to go to homecoming together, thinking that if the two of them plan together, they can oust Ricky and Nini. And rather than trying to do it separately. So the two of them stick and they sing Status Quo, basically explaining that they should have been in the leads anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And Nini is now like convinced that Ricky feels the same way about each other.
Yeah.
But Courtney convinces her that they need a girls' night out.
Yeah.
It's like, let's do this instead of going to homecoming. So then we get Me and You, which is when there was Me and You. It's episode 5, I think. At homecoming, Ricky is determined to just have a good time with Big Red, who just wants to have fun. But he's actually planning on using homecoming as a way to show Nini, Ricky, Courtney, like the whole group, that they can just be friends. They don't actually have to be in relationships. They can just hang out and be friends. And we can get a couple flashbacks of all of them hanging out when they were younger. And then we can include Courtney when she moves in to high school. So Ricky can call Gina out the same way and apologize. And then apologize and be like, that was harsh, and offer her a ride home. So there, the two of them have a moment. And then Courtney and Nini are out at karaoke, with or without Miss Jen, I don't care.
Yeah.
And the two sing their karaoke song. Then on the way home, Nini actually sees Ricky drop Gina off. And so she's like sort of a little heartbroken. She's like, I need to start focusing on me, like Courtney has been saying. Yeah. And so she sings When There Was Me and You. And then she starts looking at applying for performing arts schools.
Okay.
Bop to the top. Miss Jen goes to her disciplinary hearing, whatever, that thing can all happen.
Yeah.
So then the cast can show off what they've learned. They'd be like, we really have learned. And the teachers are all convinced. And then Miss Jen sings Bop to the Top because she's inspired by them. We can do this, right? Yeah. Ricky shows up. Then they have a party to celebrate, and Ricky shows up with Gina, and Nini is trying to be super cool about it. She's like, are they together? Like, I sort of saw this. She's kind of heartbroken. She's trying to be cool about it. They can all play board games because that's super fun. Nini mentions to Courtney that she's looking at this performing arts school, and the two of them kind of have a falling out.
Okay.
Gina finds out that she's moving again at the party, and Ricky's also like, oh man. So he tries to like go after Gina, and Nini is like, hey, can I give you some advice? Like, we always came to each other for advice, and he blows her off. He's just like, look, I don't need a friend right now, and that's what you've decided that we are. So, no. So he goes after Gina, and Nini is still heartbroken. Yeah. So then the cast tries to relax a bit more. So then the next day at rehearsal, Miss Jen is like, okay, Courtney, I need you to sing Taylor's parts. And so she tries singing, and she's like, oh, I actually really like this. This could be fun. I can see why Nini likes doing this. And we can actually see Nini and Ricky can have a moment where they agree to be friends. They're like, we can't keep calling each other out. Let's just agree to make the play the best that we can, the musical the best we can, and just be friends. So in the process, they actually start like talking and almost kiss until Big Red interrupts them. Now we have Breaking Free. It's the last dress rehearsal. Ricky and Nini seem to be very comfortable around each other. The musical seems to be running smoothly. Everyone is feeding off Ricky and Nini's energy, except for EJ. People just chalk this up to EJ being jealous, but he seems genuinely distracted. Right. So the night of the play begins, and Courtney reveals that she actually called a scout to look in on Nina, and Nina is freaking out a bit. Ricky gets shaken that his mom brought her new boyfriend, and he attempts to talk to Nina because he's like, I really need to talk to someone, and the person I always go to is Nini. Yeah. So he's like, I just want to talk to Nini. And he sings a reprise of What I've Been Looking For. Yeah. So then Courtney reveals that what she's done is called this scout, and Ricky realizes that he cannot ruin Nini's chances. Right. And so he's like, I'm going to go ahead and actually sing the song. I'm going to do the whole play to make sure that Nini, regardless of what I have going on, to make sure Nini can get what she needs to do the best. Very good, yeah. Yeah, and then we realize that EJ has been distracted because he actually bought a ticket for Gina to show up. So Gina shows up so that she can take over for Taylor. That whole thing can happen for Courtney. Cool. And I was actually gonna have Ricky leave before the show starts and have Gina show up and be like, hey, you need to do this. Like, you made a commitment. And I just think that would work really well, and then reveal that the reason Gina's there is because of EJ. So back before they go on for the second act, Ricky finds Nina backstage, and he tells her, he's basically like, I've been just wanting to play this song for you, and I hope you'll listen to it because it's really, really important to me. But, you know, whenever anything goes wrong in my life, I always go to you for help. You've always been there for me. So tonight, I'm going to do this for you, and then we don't ever have to talk. You don't have to listen to my song or whatever. But before she can respond, the two of them go out and they sing Breaking Free.
Yeah.
Even though that's out of order. But whatever. We're all in this together. Last episode. So the whole cast comes out and begins singing We're All in This Together with everyone having a good time. The play is now over. Nini is searching for Ricky so she can tell him how she feels.
Yeah.
But like there's a mass of people and everything, and it's so hard to find. They're all cheering and clapping, and they're all finding their parents. And the scout approaches her and says, hey, you've done a really, really good job.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, like, I'm basically going to go back and see what I can do, and you'll be hearing from me in a couple days as to whether or not you got in or not.
Yeah.
And so Nini is like, wow, I want to share this news with Ricky. So Nini is thankful. She finally spots Ricky in the crowd, runs towards him, but Big Red stops her and says, look, Ricky is trying to make amends with his mom and this new boyfriend and the dad situation. I know that you want to maybe be with him, but I think maybe he needs to just be with his family right now. And Nini agrees. She's disappointed, but she does agree. So the next day, they're back at school. Things return to normal. Nini sees Ricky, and when she finds him, he's a little apathetic.
Yeah.
He's just sort of like, you know, the show's over. It was great. It was fun, but it's over now. And like, I'm trying to deal with this thing with my parents. So he's a little fucky. He tries to give this new mom's boyfriend a shot, but he's feeling a little bit low. Nini worries that what they could have had was just a showmance.
Right.
And so she's like, I don't know, like maybe it was nothing. And Courtney's like, look, if you feel this way, you need to tell him how you feel. That's just what it is. Regardless of how he feels. You owe that to yourself. So after school, the cast show up in the drama room and in the theater and start taking things apart, as you do, taking their stuff home and whatnot. And everyone's kind of like, oh, they're super bummed that it's over. And Nini corners Ricky and basically says that she's grateful for what he did, and she actually feels the same way about how he feels. And she knew exactly how he felt from the time that she heard his song.
Yeah.
Which means she's heard it. Mm-hmm. Even though we, the audience, haven't.
Right.
So it's like, oh. But she figured out, it took her so long to figure out how she felt. She knows that he's always felt this way, but it took her a long time to figure out how she felt. And she's like, I'm sorry, but like, this is how I feel now. So he's confused. He's like, wait, you heard my song? And she explains, and we see this through flashback.
Yeah.
That when he was doing his audition, instead of leaving the room, she hid behind some of the curtains and watched him perform.
Yeah.
So we actually get to watch the performance via flashback and finally hear this song that he wrote for her. Yeah. Which I just think would be really great. I haven't written a song. I just am assuming that somebody else would write it. Yeah. But yeah, there would be a song there. And so we get to hear it. So then the two of them share a moment and they can have a kiss or whatever before rejoining the rest of the group, where Miss Jen announces that the show was so successful that she's already has a few ideas about what they're going to do next semester. And she's happy now. So they'll be putting on a play next semester after the Christmas break. And the whole class celebrates with a reprise of We're All in This Together. Yeah. And it all seems very great until Nini gets a phone call saying that she's been accepted to this performing arts school in Denver. And there's a spot for her starting next semester. Yeah, so mine is actually basically a retelling. It's the same story. But the thing that I wanted to do is I thought it would be interesting if the story was sort of written or structured around the songs of the original.
I love that as a framing device, actually. Yeah. That's really smart. I like that.
I really like the show that we got. I just think, well, wouldn't it be fun if we sort of recontextualize these old songs? So that's what I'm saying, like We're All in This Together, or like particularly the one I'm most proud of is when they do What I've Been Looking For, like recontextualizing that song where they sort of realize that Nini and Ricky have actually been looking for each other, but using the songs as a framing device, exactly like you say. I just think, why not? Yeah. I do also think it would be really, really dope if if they included some songs from the sequels. The song is very first movie centric.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? But I'm assuming yours is way smarter than that.
Well,
this is the way that you started. I was like, oh fuck, I'm definitely going first. Yeah. Okay, hit me.
Okay, so basically my pitch is based off this new YouTube series that I've really been enjoying. It's called Waiting in the Wings. That's the name of the YouTube channel. And this guy basically, he reviews not musicals, but like he goes over the history of how musicals are made and why they were successful or why they failed. His first episode was Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. Which maybe that's where BT Bam got it from. Like
probably not,
but it's fun to think about. So he explained like
that's the U2 one, right?
Yeah. So he talks about that. I was like, yeah, like Bono and The Edge, like this is why their music turned out that way and how they switched directors.
Because it was a failure.
It was, but he talks about like the reasons and all the behind the scenes.
Yo, I gotta check this channel out.
Yeah, it's called Waiting in the Wings. It's so good. He does the Spider-Man one. He does Beetlejuice, the SpongeBob one.
SpongeBob one is apparently amazing.
And he talks about like no one thought the show would be good and how the creative minds thought like, oh, we're gonna get them to dress as people because if we get them like as
it'll look weird. Yeah.
Like these big suits will just be weird looking. So like we need to keep them like looking like
which
people.
was a stroke of genius.
It was, and it talks about like and even like the music. It talks about the composers and how they compose it in the process and they're creating the rehearsal. So it's a lot more of like the behind the scenes stuff of musicals, not like like the music is da 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 and here's the theming of this song turns into this, but it touches a little bit.
So it's more about the creation of the musical itself as opposed to the like musical theory.
Yeah, there's a little bit in there, but it is mostly about like this is the history of Spider-Man Turn on the Dark and why it failed and why it flopped.
Anyway, go on.
So I was like, I want to do like a series like that for High School Musical, the series, but I want it to be purely documentary style, and I want it to be, as I mentioned earlier, I want it to be like a critique on millennial nostalgia, on the theater industry, and how, and like kind of either connecting or pandering to new audiences through the lens of how Disney does it. Yeah.
Super deep.
Yeah.
Kind of glad I went first. Anyway, go on.
Okay, so the framing is kind of a little similar to the show, but actually the first episode is called Pitch Meeting, and so I wanted to kind of open with like news. Kind of like news snippets of like, oh, like the new High School Musical, it's had a very good opening weekend, and I wanted it to be shots of fans, but then also like clips from critics, like, oh, it's kind of like we didn't like it, da 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 da, and so it's a bit more of a divisive property, and it kind of like it builds, and there's more voices, kind of sacrificed son sort of thing, and it builds and builds and builds.
Nobody has any idea what you're referencing.
I know, it's a great Dream Theater song. Go listen to it. Octavarium, probably the third.
Go listen to the Dream Theater episode of CineMasters.
Go listen to the Dream Theater episode of CineMasters and go listen to Octavarium. It's objectively probably the third or fourth best studio release Dream Theater ever put out. Anyway, before we get down to that, but as it's like crescendoing, it'll cut to I'll still call this character Miss Jen, but her name won't be like, because she's actually trying to put a play on Broadway. It's not going to take place in a high school. But it'll cut to her in front, like standing in front of the school where High School Musical was filmed, but she's there by herself. And then it cuts back to 2 or 3 years later, and so it starts with her, and she's like, my name is Jen Jennings or Jennifer Jen, whatever name we're gonna go with, and she's like, I'm such a big fan of High School Musical, the movies. I've had talk a bit about her history, like I've done some smaller plays. They've been pretty critically successful. I've dabbled a bit of some of Disney's more smaller properties and have helped with production on some of Disney's other works. But I have a great idea. To put a stage production on of High School Musical and new ways we can update it for a new audience. So she goes and she meets with the Disney executive in this one, and she kind of goes over her plan, and the Disney executive's like, I like it, but, and is like kind of looking through her resume and is like, I'm unconvinced based on the budget you're looking for that we can put this on. So he says, so can you can you maybe draw up some songs or some get some dance choreography together and kind of show us what you're thinking of. So the first episode pitch meeting kind of goes over the groundwork of like what her original vision was. You can see kind of a bit of her storyboards and stuff, and then episode 2 is called like putting the team together, or like assemble the team. So she
You
starts.
son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah. So then she starts meeting with different composers, and she's going through her ideas, and we start to hear like some people are bringing in brand new original songs, some people are just adding, they're just redoing the original score, but they're just modernizing it, whether it they're doing. And then she's also meeting with different dance choreographers as well and stuff like that. And then so she's bringing a lot of she starts to pick a lot of the newer ideas, and she brings them to Disney. Disney's very hesitant about it. They're like, I don't know if this is the direction we want to go in. And she's really trying to push to add these new elements and sort of recontextualize it for a new modern audience. So they assign like a co-producer to work with her, or they say, we want to go through with it, but we're going to assign you this co-producer, and then so they start going through some of the like the different composers and the different choreographers, and he's trying to kind of mitigate her to like
I'm assuming this is your like Benjamin Mazzara character.
A little bit, yeah.
Like a recontextualized version of the conflict that happens between Miss Jen and
yeah. So
Benjamin.
she's trying to push it, like she wants to do something new, and he's trying to like reel her back and be like, can we literally just do like a big musical version of High School Musical without really adding too much stuff?
There's already a thing that's that. There's already a High School Musical, the musical.
Oh yeah, but in this context, it might be a smidgen different. So then episode 3 would be pre-production. So they're working through some different songs, and they want to bring in some more recognized names because they want names to be attached to the project. So they bring in some. Now I'm not sure. I don't have like a person in mind, but I'm thinking like so for like Spider-Man: Turn on the Dark, they brought in Bono and the Edge, who had never scored musical before in their
lives. Which can work good or bad.
In this case, apparently it didn't work very good at all.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. But which is interesting because in the SpongeBob musical, apparently, because they brought in a bunch of different, like they brought in Panic at the Disco and...
But so here, I'm going to interrupt you if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Panic at the Disco already writes like very musicality,
like very big thematic
moves.
Yeah.
Like if you did you could do the same thing with Mariana's Trench. Like,
yeah.
There's big, whereas like... And nothing against U2 or Bono, but it's very straight ahead rock and roll, like, verse, chorus,
yeah.
bridge, chorus, out, right? Like it's whereas when we talk about musicals, I mean we said so in the musical episode of CineMasters. When we talk about musicals, there's a different way of writing.
Yes.
There's a certain power to it. And actually one of the problems that I have with the newer songs in this High School Musical, the series, is that a lot of the songs feel like pop songs and not like show songs.
Yep.
And I do miss the musical quality of that a show musical has, as opposed to the sort of pop.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I kind of wanted my version to address is how Disney loves to remake a lot of its properties without putting in a whole lot of effort.
Bingo.
Yeah. That's going to be really apparent through the series. And so, like, I know you guys recently did a CineMasters on Maleficent, which I watched. So that's maybe one of the more better Disney remakes.
Yeah,
like, I'm in the spectrum of live action Disney remakes, that one's definitely more on the not quite so bad. Like,
it's not a great movie, but it wasn't a terrible movie.
No, and at least it tried to do something new.
Yeah,
at least
changing the perspective on a singular character was and especially Maleficent, one who's so well known and well liked as a villain. Yeah. It's a really good idea.
Yeah, at least they tried to do something new as opposed to The Lion King, which was literally a shot-for-shot remake, which was soulless.
More like shit-for-shit remake.
Yeah,
except the original Lion King is amazing.
Yeah, because there's this soulless, lifeless, heartless remake that has nothing new to offer, nothing challenging for its audience.
Tell us how you really feel.
Oh my god, I really that's my least favorite Disney because it has the least amount of effort put in. Aside from the working 23-hour-a-day animators who probably worked tirelessly to put that animation together, like, it's a visual spectacle for sure, but I think you could probably get just about as much if you put on National Geographic, put it on mute, and just had the audio track of the original Lion King playing behind it. It'd be like...
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, right. You probably get something, like, Be Prepared got turned into like a spoken word poetry slam for some reason. It's like,
anyway, go back to...
Apparently Chiwetel Ejiofor can actually sing, which
go back
blows that. Let's get back on
yeah.
before I really start tearing into the terrible Lion King remake, which I hated so much.
So what you're saying is CineMasters.
I would do a CineMasters
okay,
on the...
I'll keep that in mind.
Call me up, man. Now you really want to... I will tear limb from limb that film. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I would love to do a proper reinterpretation of The Lion King, not what Disney barfed out at us with like no effort. Okay, so episode 4, the auditions. Now this is kind of where we get into some of the kind of interesting politics of Disney a bit, and how they want to be progressive but not too much. Because one of the things I actually really liked about, and I apologize that I didn't mention it, was that how they cast a male performer to play Sharpay.
I think that's great.
Which was because kid killed it.
Yeah.
The character's name is Joe in the show.
No, the character's name is Sebastian.
Oh.
Sebastian plays Sharpay.
Oh, sorry. I'm excited. I have a list of the actors and characters. Sorry, yeah. So no, the actor's name is Joe or Joey, and yeah, it's Sebastian Matthew Smith is the character's name. So I actually really liked that. So I would like to feature something like that where it is like a male or visually male actor who's going, but the kind of the execs like. I don't know about that. Like, I can see yes, but is it too progressive? So they ended up casting him as a understudy for Sharpay. It's like, if the main actress is ever sick, like, you're in, but we don't necessarily want your face on the poster either, though. And like, I don't want it to be like super like in your face, but like, because again, it's all kind of documentary style. But I do kind of want to like, because this is episode 4. This is for the audition, so I do kind of want to have that play into it a little bit, because I think Disney has, especially now, they're like, we want people to think we're progressive, but we also don't want to go too much though either. And really, I don't know if it's just diversity for diversity's sake, or if there's people there who actually want to have different opinions and stories being told that aren't just white people all the time. But I think
I have no idea.
That's the thing.
I don't work at Disney.
I know, but like a lot of times it comes across as a bit of a quota to kind of fill. Like I'm curious about the behind the scenes of Disney. Like, is there actually like a bit of a progressive agenda, or do you guys just really just want like, well, I mean, it would sell really good if we we
I
had
bet you they do probably have like a mandate in Disney to produce or have so many actors or ideas in that particular way. But I think it would be really interesting to see somebody who's trans.
Yes.
Get cast as Sharpay.
Yeah.
And then have the politics of that, because Disney has shown that they're willing to do much around homosexuality and couples that way. They're willing to show that, but they haven't done a lot.
Yeah, but like even then, it's like, it's pretty like,
I know,
blink and you miss
tame.
it, right?
Like it's pretty tame.
Yeah, like, because the big I remember with Frozen 2, which you still haven't seen, right?
I've not.
Okay, so I don't want to like spoil anything for you, but the big thing was people were like, oh, like, give Elsa a girlfriend,
but Elsa, even in the original, I don't think Elsa was originally supposed to be like out and out gay. I think that was the way that people read it, and it's a legitimate reading. Having gone back and been like, oh yeah, shit, no, that's there. Like it's a legitimate reading, and it's fairly overt, but it's not. And so I think they're basically being like, it's implied without
exactly
doing it. Yeah.
Which is kind of what I want to examine in this part specifically in the auditions episode, is like, well, we want to have some visual diversity, but not too
it's like we're paying lip service to it. We're not actually doing it. And I think that's a good way to look at it, especially like the cynicism behind creating any content.
Yeah. So then we go into episode 5, which is the read-through. So the cast has been more or less assembled, and understudies cast. And so they're doing the read-through, and so Jen is, she's trying to, push for her ideas. She wants to kind of, do things new with it, but again, the execs are kind of trying to rein her in a bit and be like, well, we need to include these lines from the original show because people loved it when, they loved this line and they loved this song and they loved it done this way and that, and so she's really fighting. She's also fighting with the music people as well because she wants to include a lot more original songs, but like either they're being either like the style doesn't work or like other original songs are being picked that she doesn't really like, or they don't fit with the, like, which is kind of one of my thing with a lot of the Disney remakes, is that they throw in an original song in there because of course then they can be up for Oscar for best original song, which is the only reason why they're put in there.
Well, no, you're thinking of Aladdin, I think, in particular.
I'm thinking of that, and I'm also thinking Beauty and the Beast as well.
I actually like the one from Beauty and the Beast. I actually think the song from Aladdin in particular is not a bad song.
But it doesn't fit.
Correct. Giving Jasmine a song is not a bad idea.
No, it's
either.
not. No, agreed.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
But that song does not feel like it belongs in the world of Aladdin.
Yeah.
Aladdin was written by Alan Menken, the greatest. And the way that he writes, I mean, without going too much on a tangent, Aladdin has a particular feel. It has that minor second feel that we hear throughout that whole thing. Like that from Arabian Nights all the way to... The only song that doesn't quite fit into there is...
Friend Like Me.
No, Friend Like Me has a lot of jazz influence.
Yeah.
But doesn't fit into that show feeling is A Whole New World.
Yeah.
Whole New World feels like a out-and-out love song, a duet, right? And it works. I think giving Jasmine a song could have been amazing. That one feels like they were like, you know what was a great song? Let It Go. You know what we should do?
Let it go. That's right. That's absolutely right. Okay, so they're going through the read-through, and we're seeing that Jen is losing control over the production. She's meant to be the person in charge, like she's the director, but we see that creative decisions are kind of being pulled and taken away from her, and her original vision of what she wanted this production to be, this updated, it's High School Musical, and it has some of the elements from before, but it's been recontextualized, and it speaks more to newer, like the younger kids who are in high school now, but it also like people who watched when they were younger can still kind of identify with that vision's like slowly being pulled away from her. And then we have the episodes for blocking and tech rehearsals. We're seeing that they want to do, like, Disney's kind of like, we need it to be more of a show. Like, we need more of a spectacle. Like, can we have a sequence, like, when they're doing basketball, like, where kind of similar to what they end up doing in the final production where he's, like, hoisted up on this harness. And,
that is pretty dope, though,
yeah,
for a high school show to be able to pull that off. We didn't have anything like that when I was in high school.
I don't think anybody does because, like, the waivers and safety, and again, it's a musical, so we have to suspend our disbelief. But like in actuality, like I can't imagine, going to
had full choreography for fight scenes. We just didn't have anything like where somebody was lifted wearing a harness. But I couldn't imagine going up to my principal and be like, hey, like, can we install like a air like harness for them to go flying through the... because like a lot of schools will have rock climbing.
Yeah.
It's no different.
For sure, but then those are like, there's professionals who are like called in.
Yeah, but I'm a professional. I can do that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But like I'm thinking more like, and it's different, like rock climbing would be different than like, we're going to gather, because again, like from that administrative lens, you're always thinking about like the parents, right? Like, can you imagine like hoisting this kid up in the air and then something happening and they're drop and like shatter their ankle and they're like, and then like, all the parents are there, they're like, what's going on?
Yes, that exactly.
Yeah. Trust me on this one. So they're trying to add in like some of these aerial scenes, and like there's actors' injuries that have been happening and stuff like that, and so things are being changed, and they're being changed around some more, and some actors are leaving and coming back, but it's finally starting to take shape, and they think that they finally set an opening night. So now Disney starts on the marketing campaign. They're like, High School Musical, the musical, it's coming to Broadway. It's like, it's going to be amazing. And they're showing clips of it. And, you know, they're showing some of the musical artists that they got to work on the songs and things like that. And, you know, they're trying to really hype up the sales and everything like that. Opening night, they got the original cast there. They've got other...
No, Zac Efron wouldn't show up. He
You
doesn't
don't
show up for anything High School Musical.
Does he not anymore?
No, not anymore. I have no idea why, because it's sort of where he got his start. And I get you don't think they're good, Zac Efron, but like, it's where you got your start.
I mean, I'm sure Disney could toss in a couple zeros and make him show up.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know, it's Disney, right? Like, people don't really say no to Disney anymore.
It's
like,
frightening.
It really is. Like, and give it a couple more. Like, Disney's kind of on the warpath to just own all
Disney, Google, and Facebook.
Yep, they'll just own everything.
And Tencent and Huawei.
Yeah, like Disney's probably just sitting there looking at DC like, you're next. Like, we're gonna do in another decade, we're gonna do an Avengers Justice League crossover. It'll be the biggest freaking thing ever. It'll be amazing.
I'm hoping that superhero stop becoming popular. Like, people will just not show up for them. I'm tired of it.
I know you are. I think it depends, because another smart thing Disney's doing is that they, at least from Marvel's perspectives, they keep putting in new characters. And so, again, with that kind of, they're looking at, we can kind of we can pull a bit at this audience and this audience, because like, we're now, our visual representation is like, we can tell these kind of stories and these ones and these ones. So they can keep that money train just rolling and rolling and rolling.
Keep going. I keep distracting you. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So, so the show finally happens, and then the reviews come out. Audience members tend to like it. Critics do not. They say, it's basically just a rehash of High School Musical, the musical. The new songs they put in are not very good. The performances are good enough, but like it doesn't really do much that it kind of set out to do. Like, it's just kind of stay home and watch the movie. So it has a really big opening weekend and like the first couple weeks, but then it slowly teeters off, and then after the first month or two it just drops, and then it ends up it ends up being pretty divisive, as a lot of Disney properties are. I know there's some people who really enjoy it, some people who really don't like it and think it's just kind of a waste of time. But the last kind of thing I wanted is that it's going to cut back to Jen in front of the school, with kind of like a soft refrain of like, we're all in this together. And she's there by herself. Like, they've kind of set it up, they've framed it so she's there at the school, she's by herself, and a lot of like the composers and things are kind of like, well, Jen, she was the director and da-da-da-da, and it ends up kind of, she's saying, I all I wanted to do is I just wanted to, this was something I really loved and was passionate about, and then it kind of got taken away from me. And I mean, yes, I was the director, so it was ultimately it was my, it was my call, but there was so much that I gave up to make this dream a reality, and the final thing, it was nowhere near what I wanted it to be. I got my wish. I got to make the High School Musical, the musical, and like now it's the remake, and it was nothing like what I wanted.
That's interesting. As a whole, that's really interesting, just as like a way to talk about and look at how these Disney remakes get made.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't think your show would ever get made.
Oh, no. God, no, it wouldn't
But I also like the idea of using the documentary as a framing device.
Yeah.
I also think that would be really interesting because the show itself is not a documentary. Like, it would be scripted, but set up like a documentary.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's like another layer that you'd have to think about. You'd have to be like, this is... Yeah. That's interesting. I do think, like, just thinking about that, I do think the show that we got, the original show, would be better if they had set it up like it's supposed to be a documentary. Because they do that weird, like, talking head thing and the framing thing where they're like one of my favorite scenes from the first episode is when she's like, I was triggered as a millennial, and Ricky turns to the camera and is like, millennial? Like, what?
Yeah.
I think that's funny and it works, but they don't... I think they pick and choose. They want it to do it that way, but they don't really want to do it that way. Yeah, no,
this would be pure documentarian style, and you would still get those talking head parts from the actors and the composers and things like that, but it really, at the end, it would really like kind of harken home to like, this Jen character, like she took this on, but really
Yeah.
you kind of see the threads, like, oh, this creative decision got taken away and this one and this one. So at the end, she was left with this thing that didn't really resemble her original vision at all, but all the blame got dumped on her
On
doorstep.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
She's like, oh, like it's her, like, she didn't take command of the production and she let this person run away with this in the musical. Yeah, and again, like a lot of this comes from, again, the waiting in the wings, because that's really what happened to Spider-Man Turn on the Dark, is the director got landed with, and from Bono and from all these other people, like, well, I mean, she can do it properly, and like but it's like, no, like she really got like the creative vision, like even if her original idea wasn't good, like she kind of got it like ripped out from underneath her, and she just kind of got saddled with the blame when it didn't turn out the way people wanted it to. People had these really outlandish, she came with a vision and people had these really outlandish expectations, and when they couldn't met it, I was like, well, it was her fault. So that's why that I think it would be really impactful at the end, when all these people are saying these things, and it cuts to her just like alone at front of the school, like, we're all in this.
Except we're not. It's only you, and you suck.
Except we're
Do
not.
you? Yeah. That's great. Any last minute thoughts on High School Musical, the musical, the series, HSMTMTS?
Oh, wow, you got both in there. Double whammy. Bonus points for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, if you hadn't asked me to do this for CineMasters, I probably would never have watched it. It's not the type of show I typically like to watch, and it did get better as it progressed. Would I watch a season 2? I don't.
There will be a season 2.
There will be. I'm sure there will be. I don't know.
Okay, that's interesting.
I'm
maybe we'll come back to that. We'll circle around back to that.
Yeah.
I am very excited for season 2. I'm assuming it's been postponed. I haven't done any research into it. I'm assuming it's been postponed because of the world being the way it is. But I am very excited for season 2. And apparently they're going to do Beauty and the Beast.
Really?
Yes, according to all the trailers, the show that they'll be putting on will be Beauty and the Beast. But I am, as I said before, I think the show lives and dies on how it deals with Ricky and Nini's relationship.
Yeah.
And the more invested you are in that, the better it gets.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy the camp. I do think it's campy, and the side characters are definitely fun, and the show is fun as long as you make sure that it's camp. The show knows it's campy, and I think that's okay. I think the longer the show went on, the better it got, and so I do think season 2 will be better because the show will know what it is.
Yeah.
And I thought the original songs were great. They're fun, they're poppy, but they're not musical.
Yeah.
And if I had one critique of the show we got, the biggest one would be like, play your framing device of a documentary better.
Yes.
And
if
then,
you're going to do it at all.
And then it's fine to have some pop songs, but give me some showstoppers.
Yeah.
I mean, the power ballad was great that Ashlyn and Nini sing together.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good tune. But I needed like a show tune.
Yeah.
A show tune. Where can people find you?
You can still just find me through all of Robot Philosopher's socials.
Yeah.
It's usually me posting stuff.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, it is.
As long
it's
as someone's
me.
posting.
It's me. I'm usually either sharing like this kind of content. I mean, who knows? Maybe when this episode airs, maybe there'll be actually more Robot Philosopher content.
It's true.
To view. It all really depends on. I know right now when we're filming this, we're 1 week out from our next band practice. Exactly a week out from our next band practice. So hopefully we can get some footage, and once
This episode probably won't air until much later.
Oh, yeah.
I'm using it as a backfill episode.
For sure, yeah. So. But we'll, just keep following us on Robot Philosopher. We're still working and plugging away on cool new music, and yeah.
You can, of course, check out Robot Philosopher for me, but you can also find CineMasters stuff on Facebook, and right here on YouTube, we have new episodes of CineMasters every Tuesday, and every other week there are new episodes of This Is a Thing, where I do deconstructions of media that I like. Sometimes I'm just talking about shows that I like or movies. Other times I'm deconstructing them on why I think they're important. And with that, we'll catch you next time.
Yep.
Peace out.
Take care of each other.